Hi everyone, in this lecture we will be discussing about introduction to e-commerce. So in this lecture we will be discussing what is e-commerce, what are the features of e-commerce, what are the components of e-commerce, what are the business models in e-commerce, the advantages and disadvantages of e-commerce, and some of the recent trends in e-commerce. So let's discuss what is e-commerce. As we know that internet has revolutionized the way of how business is conducted nowadays, electronic networks all over have connected people and has reduced the barrier of time and distance. The global markets have taken advantage of this new business opportunity. E-commerce has become a necessity component of every business strategy. So, the basic meaning of e-commerce is also known as the electronic commerce or internet commerce, and it refers to the buying and selling of goods and services with the help of internet. It also includes the transfer of money, exchange of data, and exchange of transaction with the help of electronic networks. E-commerce refers to the paperless exchange of business information in following ways. These are electronic data exchange, which is referred to as EDI, electronic mails, which is emails, electronic bulletin boards, electronic fund transfer. In the next slide, we can see that how e-commerce is an integration of all these components. The electronic data interchange refers to the paperless exchange of information in form of through some electronic medium through internet. Then we have corporate digital libraries, which form the part of your EBB, that is electronic bulletin board, electronic messages, which includes email, electronic publishing, and all these things. Let's now discuss the features of e-commerce. So the main feature of e-commerce is that in e-commerce we have a 24 cross service availability. 24/7 service availability is there, that is around the clock we can buy, sell the goods, and which is a very different from the traditional commerce where we had a limited time span where a buyer and seller had to meet physically for the exchange of goods or services. So the first feature of e-commerce is that the service is available round the clock, that is 24/7. Then it includes non-cash payments. We have multiple payment options through which we can carry the payments, that is cash payments, non-cash payments, which include credit card, debit card, net banking, UPI, wallets, etc. Then communication. There is a communication between buyer and seller, and the buyer and seller are both the parties are informed. Then there is inventory management. In case of e-commerce, there needs to be a very strong supply chain management, and inventory management is one of the most important feature in e-commerce. Then there is a customer support. We can see that there is a dedicated customer support channel that provides support to the buyer as well as to the seller. Then with the help of e-commerce, we have seen that there is improved sale and there is advertising and marketing through electronic media. Now let's understand some of the components of e-commerce. So for carrying out a business through e-commerce, we require an e-catalog. That means that is a web page which will showcase all the products and services a business is selling. Then it will include a shopping cart and a payment gateway through which the buyer will make the payment. The essential support services which are required for an e-commerce for carrying out e-commerce is communication, payment mechanism, order fulfillment, and logistics. So we can say that the primary activities are supported by these support activities, which are communication, payment mechanism, which is done through a payment gateway, order fulfillment, and logistics. Now let's understand a typical process if uh, process or the activities which are included in e-commerce. So a typical process of e-commerce includes that there is the buyer. He comes and gets connected through a computer which is connected through internet. He orders some products. He adds those products into the shopping cart. After adding those products into the shopping cart, the buyer will check out for the payment and will select any of the payment modes. Then once the payment is done, the order is completed. The email is sent to both the customer as well as to the merchant, that is the buyer and the seller. Then the product is sent to the warehouse for the fulfillment. The shipping carrier picks up the product from the warehouse and finally the shipment is delivered to the customer. Now let's understand some of the e-commerce business models. E-commerce business models are generally categorized into the following categories. That is B2B, where the business transaction or the business takes place between two business organizations. B2C, where the e-commerce business takes place between buyer and a seller, where the buyer is the end consumer and the seller is some business. Then C2C, that is in which both the buyer and the seller is in form of the customer. Then business to consumer to business, that is C2B. C2B is in which the seller is a consumer, whereas the consumer is the business unit is the consumer. Okay, so example of C2B is all the freelancing websites like Fiverr and all, where the companies they hire freelancers to get their work done. Then we have business to government, government to business, and government to citizens. So these are some of the common e-commerce business models, and we can find number of examples in this e-commerce. You can find a number of examples of different e-commerce portals which are functioning on these business models. Now let's discuss some of the famous e-commerce portals. So we have Amazon.com, Amazon.in. This is one of the famous e-commerce portals that we are using. Then Flipkart, it is an Indian e-commerce portal. Myntra, which is typically dealing with apparels, is another example of e-commerce portal. Then Jabong, earlier Jabong.com was there, now it has been acquired. Then Shopclue, Snapdeal, Paytm Mall, these are some of the famous e-commerce portals which we use on daily basis. Now let's discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages of e-commerce. So first of all, let's discuss the advantages of e-commerce. So definitely we can say that e-commerce is a time saving activity. Through e-commerce there is a lot of time saving. Then no crowd. Now due to this COVID pandemic, we have to ensure that we are having social distancing, and so by just sitting at our homes we can shop whatever products we want to shop. Then there is easy to canvas prices, that is we can do price comparisons and we can see wherever the product is available at a cheaper price we can get the products. Then there is no geographical limitations. We can buy products from anywhere, anytime, at any point of time, and the products can get delivered to you. Then there is elimination of the travel cost. We can find the products much quicker. The service is available 24/7, and also we have seen there are frequent promo codes, discounts, and coupons which are available, which have actually increased the users to use e-commerce portals. Now let's discuss some of the disadvantages of e-commerce. So the first disadvantage is that sometimes we can get unsatisfied orders. Then there is always a threat to our security, and there are frauds that are going on through these e-commerce portals, and there is always theft. uh, there is always concern regarding theft and fraudulent activities. And the most important thing is that the customers, they don't have uh, the customers, they feel that there is lack of feel and touch of the products. Customer feel empty handed unless and until they don't touch the product and they buy it. So that's all in this lecture. Thank you everyone.